Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Idle Angels guide. And today I am going to be talking about all of the current supports that we have in the game. I think I covered most, if not all of them, and I will try to explain to what point you're supposed to build them in the early, in the mid, and the late game, and then what are the perks, what are the supports used for, and are they better for PvE or for PvP. But before we start talking about all of the supports, there are some things that we need to clarify because there are a lot of new players. So the stars over here that you see, you will be seeing them a lot through this video. So if you are unsure which star means what, just come back to the beginning of the video and you can see it, that the red stars are the SSR levels, the purple stars are UR, the yellow stars are UR plus, and those red yellowish are the MR levels of the angels, and then the crystals are the incarnation levels. This is important because I will be explaining until what point to build each support. And here's some information. DE means the death evasion, and this prevents death, so your angels cannot die. CC is the crowd control barrier. It means that absorbs certain amount of damage. And then there's a shield which absorbs certain amount of damage, but some DPS angels can ignore shields. And then there are some interactions of supports that will say that you receive buffs or deal damage that can go through shield, but it cannot go through a barrier. So there is a small difference between the two. Then we have a passive. This one activates once the angel enters the battle into the positions of 1 through 6. And then there's a dispel which removes the buffs or the debuffs depending what type of dispel it is. So these are the current supports that we have into the game. If you see the angel over here, it's most likely that it's support. So don't, if you see it over here, don't be like, oh, this is going to be my DPS angel, and then you build Hera to max and you wonder why you cannot push. Maybe the only exception that makes this list is Idun, because she's kind of semi DPS and semi support, but we'll get to that a bit later. Now here I have shown like a minimal investment of the supports lineup. This is, in my opinion, what is the minimal that you will need to build those angels in order for them to feel useful on your lineup. Until the point that you reach those stars that you see over here on the list, then the angel won't really be providing you anything, or it will be providing you quite less than what you are expected or what people have told you. So now we are going to start with the lists. The list doesn't have the same priority. Just because I've shown Jeane over here, it doesn't mean that Jeane is the first support that you need to build. I'm going to go through all of the angels, and then at the end of the video I will do a conclusion in which I explain what order I will do. It's definitely not the best because the order of the build-up of all support angels depends on the DPS angel that you choose, but it's like an overall lineup that I would say it's a good one. So with Jeane, Jeane is a nice support because she provides death evasion with her incarnation level, which is very good. She provides some odd stacks, and those odd stacks will help your angels survive. But in order for that to happen, Jeane needs to be on the field. Unless you have Jeane at incarnation level 5, then she can be on subs, even on position 12, and she will still provide your angels with that death evasion. The MR boosts your max HP, which is good. If you are building Lilith, you would like the MR 5 on Jeane first, and then the incarnation level to go to 5, but the MR won't work from subs. So if you're using Lilith, it's most likely you would like Jeane to be on your main lineup as well. And the more incarnation stars that you get, the more damage reduction, which is used in PvP, because sadly in PvE, damage reduction doesn't really do that much. So overall, an amazing support. I do think that she needs to be one of the first supports that you build, at least to MR1 and incarnation level 1 for that death evasion. Next, we have Idun. Idun is, as I said, semi DPS, semi support. Why? Because as a solo DPS, if you decide to build Idun first, she can still work out and she can still beat some teams in PvP, and she can definitely beat PvE as well. But here's the separation. Idun MR levels are more towards buffing the allies and helping your team, while the incarnation level it's more on the damage side and dealing more damage. So if you are using Idun as a support, you would want into the mid game to have the MR5. Even if you are using her as a DPS, in my opinion, it's good that you have the MR5 covered first, because you will be using it for PvE and then to do the incarnation level. But in the end, in my opinion, if you are not going to use Idun for PvP, you don't really need to bother with the incarnation level that much. But if you decide to use her, do incarnation level 5, and you can use her from subs, which is very nice. It means that the angel doesn't need to be on your main lineup. In my opinion, it's good support, but I haven't really tested her in the early games, so I cannot say if she's like a must-have early on support or more of a after you have built a few more supports. But still, if you like her, there's no mistake in building her, because she is definitely good. After that, we have Poseidon. Now, this support, she's a full support. She reduces the enemy attacks and dispels allies debuffs, which is very good. With Poseidon, what is good to mention is that you will want incarnation level 1 and MR1, but in the early game you can even skip the incarnation level 1. You can only build her at MR1. I know that I've shown over here a bit different, but it's okay if you do only MR1. In the mid game you will want incarnation level 4. Why? Because on incarnation level 4 you will receive 30% more buff received to all of your angels. So this means that when Poseidon is in the main team, she will buff all of your angels, and then the next supports that apply buffs will be 30% stronger, which is really strong. But this is the reason why I say that she needs to be your 6th or 7th, maybe even support that is built. But overall, the MR1 star on Poseidon is very useful in the early stages of the game, and provides you a nice damage boost as well. So feel free to start with that. When it comes to Raph, she heals the team. She gives a nice damage and crit damage buffs. She also gives a barrier on her incarnation level 5. She activates a nice, really strong barrier, and the MR provides a big barrier that absorbs damage and provides energy recovery, which is very good. So in my opinion, Raph is a strong support that can provide you damage and can provide you survivability in both PvE and PvP. Is very useful. As I mentioned, in PvP you use the barrier, because in PvE, sadly, barriers don't really do much. So overall, a really good support. There's no mistake by going with her, and she's quite cheap because she's an MR based support. Then we got to Hela. Hela is kind of the godly support. If there's a tier list, if it's possible to even create a tier list of supports, maybe Hela and Hera are going to be on the top, with Jeane, Horus, and Sim just because they provide death evasion. But Hela is one of the strongest supports currently into the game because she heals the team, she increases her own max HP by a lot, she deals damage based on her max HP, which later on actually could be useful into the PvP. The MR provides damage reduction and gives attack boost based on her max HP, which is incredibly strong. If you are building Lilith team, you can postpone Hela a bit, but if you are building any other DPS, you would want Hela at around third or fourth support, I would say. A lot of people say that Hela is a must-own first support, but hear me out. She is good, but not that good, mainly because you would like a bit of death evasion early on or a way to negate the damage from your enemies in PvP or from your enemies in PvE. And after that, you can destroy the enemy with having a stronger, a strong Hela. In my opinion, MR2 is the earliest stage that you can start, which is quite costly compared to other angels. And why MR2? At MR2, this is the point where you start to receive those attack boosts. Then at Incarnation level 2, she is upgrading her max HP, so she gets more max HP, which means higher buffs for your team. And then the MR4 is buffing that, it's giving more stats to her buff, which is even stronger. And then for the late game, I do suggest that you look around the Incarnation level 3, because in a way, when you have Hela Incarnation level 3 and you're fighting in PvP, whenever an enemy angel dies, she will lock that spot. So your enemy is locked with 5 angels while you are going to be having 6. So this could become quite handy for PvP. But once again, in my opinion, Hela, even though she is a must-have support for PvE later on, like the 90 plus stages, you will need Hela in order to push them. She is definitely not the first support you want to build to max out or even into the mid game. She comes a bit later. Now Horus, this is a support that I would suggest you can build early on. Very great utility on her. The most important part about Horus is her UR+, which is going to give death evasion to your team. And after that, you can try to look for the Incarnation level 2, which will increase your attack and holy damage. And also on the Incarnation, there is a thing that marks the enemy. And whenever you deal damage to that enemy, this damage is stored. And then I think 50% of that damage is applied after the turn ends. ER3 is another nice upgrade because ER3 gives +1 willpower to your other allies and angels, but I suggest that you go for ER3, 4, and 5 only once you have already built 6 or 7 or even 8 supports. Otherwise, there's kind of no point in having that +1 willpower to angels that don't have Incarnation levels. Then we have Sim, another good support because of her death evasion. What I suggest is that you try to get her to Incarnation level 3. That's when the death evasion is being unlocked. And then at Incarnation level 5, she will be able to spam that death evasion a bit more. Her UR plus provides a shield and lowers critical damage from the enemies, and the MR provides energy restoration and attack buff, plus upgrades her UR plus shield. But Sim is kind of the support that you can stop with Incarnation level 5. Don't feel the need to build the MR stage of Sim, and usually the MR stage of Sim is used for when you have a Hera that is being built and you need Hera to cast a bit more, so that means that she needs more energy. So stopping at ER5 on Sim, it's a good point, and you don't need to have the need to max the MR as well. It's way too costly, so you won't really be able to build all of the supports. Now Uriel is kind of a support that you buy the Incarnation level once, and you forget about this angel. You only apply it and use it whenever you decide to negate the enemy damage. How it works is that at incarnation level 1, Uriel will negate 99% of the highest attack enemy, or for one round. Or in a way, you put Uriel and you block one instance, one round of damage, because most of the people will have only one DPS available. It's quite cheap and it's very, very useful because it lets you survive a strong PvE attacks, and then in PvP you can survive for one round and hit your enemy first. Now, when it comes to Hera, an amazing support. What must be said is that if you're using Lilith, you don't really care about Hera, but you will need Hera for PvE, at least at the current stage of the game. We all do need to build Hera. The minimal requirements kind of for Hera are the UR+, which will dispel all buffs on one enemy. Why is this very important for PvE? Is that at around stage 50 or 60, you will start to see the enemies have a taunt buff and damage reflection. Hera can clear that, and there are other angels that can help you out from the SR+ rarity. One is called Raphael. One is Zhurong, and the other one is Hephaestus. Not sure if that's how she's pronounced, but the thing is that those are SR+, and it's very annoying to do your lineup accordingly to the enemy. So building UR+ will save you a lot of troubles, and also you will need and want the MR stages of Hera later on. But what is important is that you try to unlock the incarnation level of Hera as early as possible. Why? Because on incarnation level 0, you will be postponing enemy damage for 2 rounds. So basically it will allow the damage that the enemy deals to be kind of delayed, and then it will be like a ticking bomb for two rounds. So after 2 rounds you're kind of dead, but if you can kill your enemy in those 2 rounds, good for you. And then on incarnation level 3 you're going to receive 30% skill damage increase, which is quite big. And then incarnation level 1, 2, 4 and 5 just buffs the reduced damage that your enemies deal, and delays their damage even higher, which is a nice PvP buff. But the incarnation level 3 is something you care about PvE. Next support we are going to be talking about is Capricorn. Capricorn is one of the best supports to upgrade and build more max HP. In my opinion, if you are using Lilith, this is one of the first supports you will want. Why? Because the MR is a passive that gives 50% more HP, and with each star of MR it's 10% more. So basically if you have Lilith and then you put Capricorn, it's just 50% more damage and 50% more HP to Lilith, which is amazing. MR2 gives 90% more damage reduction for one instance of damage, and MR4 gives +1 more round of her MR skill, which is another really good and amazing perk. The thing with Capricorn, she doesn't have incarnation level, and she is very, very strong, and she is very used in almost every scenario. So consider this support again being built a bit later. If you're using Lilith, this is one of your first supports, but if you are not using Lilith, then you want MR Capricorn after Hela. Why? Because you want Hela to be built and to be buffing your team, and then you build Capricorn to buff more HP to Hela, which will of course provide a nice buff and benefit to her, so even stronger buffs for your team. Next support is Enmu. Enmu is a support that is actually going to give you so much damage that your enemies will just get nuked almost every single time you enter. We're speaking about early, mid, and most likely into the late game as well. Why is that? Basically what Enmu does is on her incarnation level, she has something that is called Doom, which marks the highest attack angel, which most of the times it's the enemy DPS, and makes that angel the target. So whenever you're attacking, it will be attacking the enemy DPS, and then whatever damage you do to that angel, 50% of that damage will be redirected to other two angels with the highest attack. But if you build incarnation level 4 of Enmu, this 50% damage will go to all other angels. So you will be actually surprised by how much crit and crit damage Enmu provides to your DPS, and how much damage it actually can stack with that Doom. It's just insanely good, unless the enemy has nice amount of death evasion, like Jeane ER5 placed on position 12 with Horus to survive, with some sim on the line, and all of those angels need to be online activated. It needs to have a Uriel to negate the damage. So it is quite, you see, it's quite hard to stop an Enmu. But of course, this is most likely for PvP usage. And for PvE, again, those crit and crit damage buffs are still very strong, and we still used in PvE in order to push further. And in my opinion, you don't even need to bother with the MR that much. Incarnation level 4 is quite enough to help you to destroy a lot of your enemies PvE and PvP wise. So it's definitely a support that you can look up to if you want to be more damage oriented. Next, we have Chaos. Chaos is a bit of a weird support to say. Why? Because if it's used for PvE, she only provides one thing, and that's 50% more damage. Sorry, I have misspelled. No, I haven't. So for the ER, how it works, it basically Chaos will exile one enemy with the highest attack. Exile means that the target won't play for one round, but if the exile fails, and the exile can fail if the enemy has more max HP than Chaos. So if the exile fails, the enemy will be receiving 50% more damage. And in PvE, you won't be able to exile an enemy like ever. You will always be hitting with 50% more damage, which is very good. And early on, this exile can win you a lot of PvP wins. So essentially, building a ER Chaos ER1, it's like 250 blue scrolls, and you'd receive a nice CC for early game in PvP, and then you receive 50% more damage for PvE, which is very good. But if you want to use the late game Chaos, a lot of your enemies in PvP, I speak, will have higher HP than Chaos. This would mean that you will need to start investing more and more to upgrade her MR and incarnation level, and you will essentially want her to be max, which is 3,500 blues, which is quite a lot. So in my opinion, if you do decide on Chaos, amazing, good support for early game, just keep her at the incarnation level 2 at most, and stop there. After that, we have Zodiac Rabbit. Zodiac Rabbit is the best support value to cost. Why? Because Zodiac Rabbit costs 140 red scrolls, not even blue, red scrolls, but can only be built during Christmas event and anniversary. No matter who you are, how much money you've spent, and etc., you should always build Zodiac Rabbit in your account. And by build, it's just 140 red scrolls to own it. Her first skill is to give you 40% damage and 40% attack boost for 2 rounds. It is an insanely good support. It's usually placed in position 1 most of the times, not always, just to give that 40% damage and attack boost, and then that's it. That's her job. But it's very good, and it does help you tremendously through PvE. Of course, this is a PvE support, but it costs red scrolls, so we don't really care that much about it. After that, we have Heimdal. This support fell off with the more releases of MR angels. And the reason behind that is because the main purpose of Heimdal is to taunt for your team. So basically what Heimdal does is she says, hey, attack me, use all the debuffs on me, and she is more or less being the bait, but you don't really need her to do that anymore in order to push in PvE. And then for PvP, maybe in some high end she's able to be tanky enough, but unless you are hard wailing, this angel will cost you 3,500 blues, will delay your progression overall on your account, and even if you build her and max her out, someone who has maxed supports to buff their DPS will kill Heimdall and your entire team before you actually are being able to tank everything. So Heimdall, in my opinion, fell off a bit through the new releases of Angels. And lastly on my list is Loki, another support that was competing with Hera, but her incarnation level is not good enough in order for me to say that Loki is a worth it support. If you want, feel free to build her, but what her incarnation level does is every day when you log in, you have a chance to gain 1 diamond or 1 blue scroll per day. Now keep in mind that her incarnation level to unlock costs 170 blues. You have around 30% chance to hit the blue scroll. So this means that you will be getting your blues back for building incarnation level of Loki at best at around 1 year of playing. So it's definitely not that worth it, unless of course you plan to play the game for 10 years or even more. Then yeah, feel free to do it. But of course 170 blue scrolls used in something else could provide you more benefit than you waiting each day to receive that 1 blue. Of course, she provides 20% more evasion to your team, and your team cannot miss with their attacks. Her UR plus skill is that it gives Loki attack and defense buff to all allies, but she rolls a dice on it. So if she rolls a 1, it's quite lower buffs. If she rolls a 6, it's maxed out buffs. And her MR allows her to roll a 6 always. So you will definitely want at least an MR1 Loki. And then MR4 is going to give you an immunity, but your allies have needed to take damage at least 3 times, and they could die if they take damage 3 times already. So in my opinion, Loki is not that great. And lastly, optimal path to upgrade support. Now, this is the path, and the numbering, in my opinion, is kind of correct. It's not a must-do, but in my opinion, Sim, Jeane, and Horus are on top of the list. Why? Because they provide death evasion, and with death evasion comes more rounds that your DPS have a chance to kill something else. That's why on a second place I've put Uriel, because Uriel negates one instance, like 1 round of damage. So this is very, very good. Hera, the UR plus 3 and the ER 3, it will provide you nice buffs for PvP, which will allow you to be competing with others, even Wells. And the UR plus is used for the PvE, which is very, very good. Enmu as fourth one, but this I do highly suggest for a single damage DPS like Himiko or like Ra or Nemesis. If your angel is doing an AoE damage, it's not that it won't feel great, but in my opinion, it will be a bit better if you're using a single damage, single target DPSer, because they just do higher numbers to a single target, and then Enmu AoE feels a bit better compared to an angel that does AoE. In fifth, I have put Idun MR1 because her cost is not that expensive and it's quite easy to have the use of an MR1 Idun. On 6th, I have put Hela at MR2, or at this point, if you've decided to wait this long, you can just go for the MR4 ER2 Hela and then forget about the Hela. At 7th, I have put Raph at ER4 and MR1. Of course, if you are needing the protection, you can go for the full max on Raph, MR4 and ER5. But if you're looking more into the PvE buffs of Raph, then ER4 is going to be enough. And lastly, I have put Poseidon to be the last stage of receiving supports, just because the main idea of Poseidon is to clear the debuffs of your team, plus to get that 30% buff received, which early on you don't really care about that. Your team gets destroyed quite easily, so you need your team to survive a bit in order to get the benefits of that support. And here on the bottom, Cupid and Chaos, I haven't put them on this list, but Cupid and Chaos, those two supports are quite optional, and in my personal choice, I haven't built them. But if I would have built them, you could even start with Chaos as a first support, and then Cupid Chaos, they're quite low of a cost, so I would put them somewhere in the beginning between 1 and 3 in my opinion. And as I mentioned, Heimdal, Loki, Sakura Spirit, Zodiac Snake and Azura, I don't think they're worth to bother at the current state of the game. There are more MR angels that are yet to be released. So with time, we will know if any of these will come back and peak. But until then, I would say that it's a skip. I know it's a long video, I'm sorry, but I had to cover up all of the supports all together. Thank you all for watching. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to post them down in the comments, and I will make sure to make a guide for every single support, how to build it, what to focus on that one support, and explaining them each one by one. But I wanted to make one general video in which I can explain it all together, and then from there we can move on to each angel one by one. Once again, thank you all for watching, and don't forget to join the Discord channel. See you all on the next one.